Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Kelly. I'm with the Office of Compliance Assistance and Pollution Prevention. We are one of 3 offices in Ohio EPA's Division of Environmental and Financial Assistance that we call DEFA. On behalf of everybody in DEFA, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to each of you participating in our second webinar during 2018. But before we get to today's webinar, I'd like to take this opportunity to point out that DEFA offers a variety of services to Ohio EPA's customers. And these include funding as well as technical assistance programs for both public and private sectors. If you'd like to learn more about the resources that we offer, please check on our webpage at epa.ohio.gov/DEFA, or you can contact us at 614-644-2798. Our goal is to offer webinars on topics that are relevant and of value to our customers. And I encourage you to check out our monthly webinar schedule throughout the year, and we would appreciate your feedback and would like to thank you for your help in spreading the word about these webinars to others. So for today's webinar, I'm going to focus mainly on the services offered by OCAP, which is the Office of Compliance Assistance and Pollution Prevention. And I'd like to emphasize that I'm going to be pointing this out throughout my presentation, that these services are free and confidential and designed to help Ohio businesses and organizations comply with Ohio's regulatory requirements. So the big question that we're going to focus on today is who will, and who will help you complete permit applications or help you ensure that you're in compliance with environmental requirements. Also, who will help you identify cost savings at your business or organization, and who will kind of direct you towards recycling grant money and help you with your recycling efforts. And also, who will recognize your efforts to go above and beyond compliance. And that answer is OCAP, the Office of Compliance Assistance and Pollution Prevention. So this is what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk a little bit about what is OCAP, and then we're going to go into what OCAP can do for you. Whether you're a business, private, nonprofit, we help a variety of different organizations throughout Ohio. We're going to talk a bit about types of assistance provided and who specifically within OCAP provides this assistance. We're also going to go into assistance resources and where you can get help. We're going to talk a little bit about how financial assistance ties into our overall assistance efforts and provide some examples and case studies. And then we're also going to hit upon several online assistance functions that we provide. And unlike most presentations, I'm not going to burn through these items in this order. We're going to kind of bounce back and forth because what we try and do in OCAP is provide like a one-stop shop or a hub where all of the Ohio EPA's assistance resources can be provided based upon your needs. So OCAP, it's the Office of Compliance Assistance and Pollution Prevention. And compliance assistance, we're basically out trying to help companies meet environmental requirements, and pollution prevention, which is waste reduction, or trying to figure out how not to generate waste in the first place, is kind of our bread and butter, our core efforts. However, we do a lot more than just that. We are part of Ohio EPA's Division of Environmental and Financial Assistance, and the big difference, for OCAP versus the rest of Ohio EPA is that we're non-regulatory. We're not inspectors. We do not have any authority to come out and kind of cite you for doing something wrong or to, we can point things out and say, hey, you might want to fix that, but we're not part of the regulatory enforcement part of Ohio EPA. We are free because we're part of state government, and, by law, we are confidential. So we are prohibited by state law from telling anybody what we may see out there, which may not be, like the way it should be. And as I mentioned, we try and be a one-stop shop for assistance, but there's always new assistance type things coming online all the time, so I'm not going to sit here and act like we know everything. So what can we do for you? We are, like I said, our basic assistance approach is to provide regulatory technical assistance by phone or through the email. That still seems to be the way that we provide most of our assistance day in, day out. One of our highest value activities is to help companies complete and submit permit applications. And we also do a fair amount of helping them with other kinds of environmental reports and various record keeping. We can come out and help folks develop on-site record keeping systems that are required under certain environmental statutes. We can also direct companies, if it's appropriate, to grant recycling funding. And, you know, we can come out for free and do a compliance assessment to figure out, you know, like things that you may need to do, you know, to be in compliance, identify recycling opportunities, and also help you figure out how to reduce waste so you won't have as many environmental requirements. And lastly, we can help recognize your efforts through our Encouraging Environmental Excellence program, which I'll talk a bit more about later. So in a typical year, we help about 3,500 businesses across the state, and this is through phone, email, like whatever works for the individual organization. On top of that, we also help about another 1,300 additional organizations, whether this be state, local governments, other part of state governments, or just organizations that aren't quote-unquote in business. On top of all of that, we do about 200 site visits. Most of these have to do with helping companies meet environmental requirements, but a significant portion is also with waste reduction and pollution prevention type activities. We help complete over 1,000 pieces of what we call EPA paperwork, and this is the things I was talking about with air permit applications, emission calculations, various required environmental reports, the NOI, notice of intent, if you've got a wastewater discharge, hazardous waste ID numbers, things like that. And we also do about 100 outreach events. You know, I mean, no one's going to take advantage of our assistance if they don't know about it. So we go out and speak on specific regulatory topics, you know, how you can reduce waste through pollution prevention or P2, like what I'm doing right now with the general OCAP services overview. We can talk about sustainability and sustainable materials management, and we do, you know, like webinars and other things like that. We basically break our assistance efforts into two broad categories, you know, on-site and off-site. For the off-site stuff, which doesn't entail us going out to your actual location, we have a toll-free hotline, 1-800-329-7518. You know, you can contact us directly by email. We'll do, you know, like we do a lot of customized research on specific environmental issues and or, you know, things that are of interest to a particular organization. And a lot of times when we get posed an environmental question, it's just a matter of finding the answer from some other state. You might have a program like this or from some other place, so we can exchange that information and say, here's something that we found that applies to what you're doing. We also operate a waste exchange. So if there's a waste that you can't get rid of for whatever reason, or you can't figure out how to reduce, you can post this online, and there might be another organization or business throughout the state who could use that as part of their inputs. One of the big things that we do is on-site assistance. And again, you know, this is basically broken down into compliance assistance, what do you have to do to comply with environmental requirements, and waste reduction. You know, how can you not generate this stuff in the first place and possibly save money, get rid of those environmental requirements. We've been really making an effort over the past couple of years to focus as much as we can on sustainability. So if you've got an air permit that you need help with, we may ask you, well, why do you need that air permit? You know, what are you doing that you could possibly do differently in a cost-effective way so you're not creating those emissions that require the permit? But after saying all that, we're very much focused on what the organization wants to do. So if you come out and say, well, we just want to focus on this one thing, that's fine. You know, we'll help you with that and walk away. But it's very much kind of an interactive type dialogue. You know, like we work with the company to try and figure out what they need, might identify some things they're not aware of. So, you know, but we're very much focused on what the organization wants to achieve. We've been working more here in the past few years with trying to identify recycling options and how we could possibly line up funding for those. And all of this information is kind of put together in a final report, which might be, you know, extensive in the sense that it might be 10 to 20 pages. It might be a longer email. It might just be a few pages that addresses one specific thing that a company needs help with. I want to talk a little bit about pollution prevention and sustainability just because it's not real apparent to everybody exactly what all that entails. But, you know, as I've mentioned, P2, pollution prevention, is focused on not generating waste. It includes concepts that you've probably heard like waste minimization, energy efficiency, water conservation, recycling, environmental stewardship, you know, things of that nature. It's the cornerstone of sustainability. Much of the sustainability type activities that you would do in a manufacturing setting are what has traditionally been known as pollution prevention. And the focus is very much beyond compliance. It's not necessarily just, you do so much of it to get you into compliance, but it's, can you figure out a way not to generate this so you don't have to worry about paying to get rid of it later. Unlike other things that we do here at Ohio EPA, it's very process-focused. It's not focused on the emissions or the waste. And usually the recommendations that we make do save the company's money. And we're very much focused on changes in production and design. How can you change your operating process so you don't generate as much waste or you use less energy, conserve whatever resources, water, whatever. Or how can you redesign the product so you may not need a paint that has hazardous air pollutants in it. And many times, not always, but usually it reduces the regulatory requirements. The environmental compliance side of what we do is very much focused on ensuring compliance, with environmental requirements. We will, come out to your facility or work with you over the phone, via email, to help identify what regulatory requirements may apply to your situation. We will indicate where improvements are needed, but like I said, we're non-regulatory. We're not out there to kind of say, hey, there might be a violation or something here that you have to do something about. We're just out there to try and, provide suggestions and advice. And we try and go beyond that. We try and kind of say, okay, well, you might have this environmental issue. Here's how you fix it, not just identify the issue and walk away. Unlike pollution prevention and sustainability, it's very much focused on emissions, waste, any kind of discharge you might have. And in certain situations, there is a correct way on managing that waste. We can inform you of that. And we'll also try and, indicate, well, this is how you might want to change your operations so you can meet regulatory requirements. And it's very much based on the regulations. The pollution prevention sustainability side of things is very much based on technology. What new technology is out there to help you use less energy, less water, reduce waste, where the compliance side of things is very much, based on meeting regulations. As I mentioned, we have a toll-free confidential hotline. You can call us up between 8 and 5, Monday through Friday, any day that the agency's open. Ask us a question. We are, required by law not to tell anybody. So, that's probably the easiest way to contact us. Or you can also contact us directly. We have staff in all of our district offices, and here are their names and contacts. These folks primarily focus on the compliance side of things, but they also do a fair amount of pollution prevention and sustainability work, and they can also tie into our folks here in Columbus who focus on that. Since this webinar is being recorded, I'm not going to go through each person and their phone number because you can access this after we're done. Here in Columbus, these are the folks that are focused on sustainability and pollution prevention. You're going to see this little triangle, throughout my presentation. This is the pollution prevention hierarchy. And these folks are focused on source reduction, not generating waste in the first place. And then if that can't be done, then recycling, then treatment and disposal. That's kind of, what we use as our guide when we're making recommendations to businesses. The next thing I want to talk about is the recycling side of this. About 5 years ago, the Recycling and Litter Prevention Program came over to Ohio EPA from ODNR. And they have 4 grant programs, and the one that we focus in on the most is the market development one. And this funding, in a sense, is used to kind of establish and reinforce the recycling market here in Ohio. The market development grant, and here's the 4 grants that are in this program, can be used to buy basically like equipment, for example, like a baler. It's got a 2-year term. It's a 100% match, which means 50-50, and you need a sponsor within a local community. Ohio businesses and nonprofit organizations can apply for this funding. There's a grant review process. There's also a webinar that we just had back in the fall, which talks about the like this year's grant cycle. It talks about the criteria and what needs to be done to apply for this. And it's, like I said, used for creating or expanding processing manufacturing infrastructure. Again, if you generate a lot of, for example, like cardboard, you can possibly get funding, half of the funding for a baler. That makes that cardboard more condensed and therefore more valuable and useful for a recycler. If you want more information about the market development grants, you can contact Chad or Marie. Their phone numbers are there on the screen. And as I mentioned, all of this information is on our Recycling Litter Prevention Grants webpage, and you can access it through that URL. We also instituted something this year which is kind of new. It's an online application process, and you can also kind of go through that to get a better idea of the criteria and some of the stipulations of the grant process. We often provide information on this when we go out to a place that has byproducts that they might be landfilling, send it to an incinerator and go, hey, you might be able to recycle that. We might be able to provide some funding to help you do that. The next thing I wanted to mention, go into a little more detail, is our recognition program. This is our Encouraging Environmental Excellence, our E3 program we call it. And we found that by recognizing companies that are doing the right thing, it kind of encourages other companies to do those type of activities. And again, a lot of this stuff saves companies money, and it also gets them out of environmental, like regulatory requirements. The program has 4 levels of recognition: achievement, silver, gold, platinum, with each one increasing the number of environmental stewardship type activities you have to complete in order to get the higher levels of recognition. The silver, gold, and platinum applications are due annually. However, the E3 achievement level can be submitted at any time. And you can also apply for more than one level at the same time. We often have folks apply for the achievement level while they're applying for silver or gold levels, for example. There's also an online application for this at the Encouraging Environmental Excellence website, and the URL is there below. Also, like the Recycling and Litter Prevention Grants program, we have a specific webinar on E3 that's going to be coming up in September for next year's application cycle. Another thing that we're starting to recommend more and more as we go out and help companies is this whole concept of sustainable materials management. And this is a systemic approach to using and reusing materials more productively over their entire life cycles. Again, this is kind of taking a look at the entire supply chain, the entire set of processes it takes from getting your raw materials to disposing of your final product. And it's a way to kind of rethink the use of natural resources, because it may not be readily apparent, but most companies are paying for all of that. So if we can increase value throughout that series of operations, it increases profits for companies, and it usually decreases environmental impacts. Sustainable material management is part of this new concept you may have heard about called the circular economy. And, this again is just taking a detailed look at how, a company's services and products are, impact the environment, and how you can increase the value through like raw material acquisition, how those raw materials are manufactured, how those manufactured products are distributed, how those products are then used, and what happens to those products at the end of life, like when they're no longer useful. And trying to maximize value in each step of that chain has been found time and time again to increase company profits, improve any kind of social impacts that may be involved, and also, decrease impacts on the environment, which really ties into the whole kind of sustainability concept. So we've been trying to go out and explain this to some companies who are interested in kind of taking a look at things beyond just what do I have to do to get in compliance, or what can I do just to minimize whatever waste I have. So how all this stuff works together? Well, we may go out to like a company and suggest that maybe they use like a less toxic input material substitution, or if they're painting a product, that they could use like a less a paint that has the same characteristics as the paint they're using, but doesn't use like toxic metals, for example, for the coloring agents. If they've got certain materials that they're currently landfilling, send it to an incinerator, can those be reused? Can you use different types of equipment to make your process more efficient? You know, a lot of times you can reduce a lot of waste by just changing, you know, how you maintain your inventory or how you schedule your production runs. Policy changes within a company can do a lot towards minimizing waste and also getting a company into compliance. There's a lot of preventative equipment maintenance type operations which also reduce waste. Procedural changes, good housekeeping practices. Again, there's you know, some really simple things you can do that will minimize waste and also take care of some environmental requirements. Spill and leak prevention, if you don't have to clean that up, you've just saved a lot of money, and it also, you know, minimizes the environmental requirements that go with it. Energy efficiency, just simple things like changing a type of lighting can you know, really save money and also, you know, like reduce your environmental impacts. Training, there's a lot of information out there on how you can train your line workers that'll minimize waste. And again, simple things like, you know, segregating your waste streams can also minimize the amount of waste that you generate. Some examples of some of the assistance that we've provided include like recycling, recovery, and reuse. You know, there's that baler I talked about. You can take, you know, like recyclable materials that may be being disposed, bale them in appropriate fashion, and all of a sudden, you know, you've got companies that can take that byproduct and they'll actually pay you so they can recycle it. You can make, you know, procedural changes, just changing how a part is cooled or the type of coolant that you use. Preventive equipment maintenance, you know, if you got a leak in your airline, for example, you're paying for that, both in the energy and in just lost productivity. Equipment process modifications, those flow restrictors you see there on that line, you know, that saves a lot of water. A lot of companies pay a pretty significant amount, even in this part of the country, for water. Some case studies. Here's some companies that we've worked with over the past few years and some of the things that they've done, you know, based on some of the suggestions and stuff that we provided. Enginetics Corporation, Huber Heights, they make a fair number of parts for the Air Force. They have a, you know, like they've used Lean and also this theory of constraint program that they've developed where they study production flow and reduce bottlenecks to improve efficiency. They do a lot of kind of part work where it's all based upon, you know, coming up with maybe a few or a small number of a certain type of part. This has reduced their workload, and it's also decreased their manufacturing time by promoting, you know, flow and throughput throughout the shop. And in particular cases, the time went down by 55 to 35 days, so you can imagine the cost savings there. Another company we worked with, Temkin Steel, and this is the water treatment plant, not the steel manufacturing part of that, able to identify an alternative water treatment coagulate, and this reduced chemical use by 90%, which was about, you know, almost close to 800,000 pounds a year. It also reduced the solids and filter cake that they had to land dispose by a couple million pounds. Another one was ID Images up in Brunswick. We reduced solid waste there by 37%, which saved almost 2,000 kilowatt hours per year. And that was a pretty significant cost savings for them. We were also able to kind of link them into our Recycling and Litter Prevention Market Development Grant, and they were able to get a special shredder that converted their waste into packing material that then they were able to use themselves and also sell to a third party, which was able to use it. And prior to that, all of that was going to landfill. And now I want to talk a little bit about some of the other resources that we have. And these are both online and offline, if you will. And this includes documents and guidance materials that you can use to kind of, you know, help yourself figure out what you need to do to comply and or reduce waste. We have a lot of online training like what we're doing right here. I've kind of mentioned the Ohio Materials Marketplace. That's that online waste exchange where you can post things that you may want and also put things up there, you know, byproducts of waste materials that you have that you're looking to, you know, find a home for. We've been trying to promote, you know, recycling practices, market development. We have a number of guides and information, you know, materials on our web pages that can help you with that. P2, Sustainable Material Research and Development. If we find something that may be particularly helpful for a particular industry sector, we can post that up on our website or make that available through hard copy. We have a fair number of compliance assistance guides that are available. All of our webinars that we do are available online, and most of this is all coordinated through our customer support center. As far as online resources, the Ohio Materials Marketplace, that can be accessed through our website. The webinars, as we've mentioned, are recorded monthly. They're available both on the agency's website and through YouTube. And as I said, we got a recycling litter prevention webinar, and also I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the assistance we provide to wastewater treatment plants of smaller package plants. There's also a webinar for that that's accessible. We have a Permit Wizard, which basically is an online application where you can go through and answer a series of questions to figure out whether or not you need an environmental permit. And most of our publications are available online and hard copy. For example, we put together something a couple years ago on how you can hold a zero waste special event, and that planning guide is available in both ways. Here's a screenshot of our customer support center. That kind of, like I said, it's kind of like a hub for some of our online assistance information. And on there, we have like an FAQ. This is a database of frequently asked questions. This pertains to both regulatory compliance type stuff and pollution prevention, sustainability type things. You can also access our publications catalog, where you can browse and search our library of various publications. Our training catalog has all of our webinars and some other training resources that we've put up there. I've talked about the Permit Wizard. That's also accessible through here. You can also subscribe to updates. And you can go to the site if you'd like to get on Ohio EPA's electronic mailing list. We have quite a few of these. Some of our regulatory programs will post new rules, new regulations that are coming down the pike, so you can kind of get a heads up on those. And you can also find out about things like this webinar, for example, a month or so ago when we started identifying that it was going to become available. And we've also got this submit a question option, where if you've got a question, you can post those here and somebody will respond to them. And all this is available through the Customer Support Center at the URL here. I also want to talk about our Office of Outreach and Customer Support. DEFA has basically 3 offices, and OCAP is one of them, and our Outreach and Customer Support is another one of those. They coordinate a lot of our kind of education and outreach efforts. One thing that you might be interested in is our newsletter, which is called The Resource. That's published every quarter and contains information on new programs, new rules, new regulations, and kind of highlights some of the successes that we've come across. We do monthly e-blasts, as we call them, which is an information and update from Ohio EPA on like new rules, new publications, new things that are happening here at the agency. We have a library of publications, fact sheets, and guide, and that's all accessible through our publications catalog on the Customer Service Center. And they're also working on improving our online training resources, through webinars and other aspects. The last thing I want to touch upon is it's a very specialized assistance function that we do here at Ohio EPA, but there's a tremendous need for this. It's our Wastewater Treatment Plant Compliance Assistance Unit. There's any number of small wastewater treatment plants throughout the state, and just because of the size of the community or for various other reasons, they need, our help in kind of operating the plant the way it was designed. So the whole point of this is to be able to go out there, take a look at what they're doing, help these plants operate efficiently, and to bring them back into compliance in a cost-effective way. This is pretty much limited to smaller communities with plants that treat less than 5 million gallons per day. And some of the things that are provided through this assistance are kind of like plant performance evaluations, new treatment technologies, what kind of training on-site personnel may need, help determine plant loadings and capacities and some of the things that are listed here. We work with the folks that provide this assistance in that, we may come across a company that's in a smaller town, smaller community that, might need this kind of assistance to get their plant up to speed so they can handle whatever effluence coming from that particular company. Sometimes some of the larger companies have suppliers that have their own wastewater treatment units, and, we can refer them to this group that can, help provide that assistance. And with that, if you need help, I would encourage you to give us a call. It's free and confidential, as I said, and they'll be willing to take any questions you might have.
So first, can I receive a site visit that focuses both on waste reduction and compliance assistance?
Yeah, our site visits are very much customized to whatever that business and organization wants at the time. If you're taking a look at like what you need to do to kind of comply with the regulations, and you're also interested in waste reduction, we could send out a couple people who might have some expertise in both areas to help you out. So yeah, that's perfectly appropriate, and we've actually done a fair number of those over the years.
What assistance can be provided to help me review my own operations to reduce waste?
I would suggest going to the Customer Service Center. That's a good place to start. You can kind of take a look through our publications catalog. You can search on various publications to find out things there. A lot of how-to guides have been created over the years, especially on the compliance assistance side of things, about what you need to do to kind of meet certain environmental requirements. And again, you can call the 1-800 number and just, we can direct you to any number of resources if you can't find them on our website yourself.
Okay. I have facilities in nearby states. Are there programs like this in other states?
Yeah, there are. They vary in size and focus. Just about every other state has at least a couple people who provide some measure of compliance assistance and waste reduction type services. If you'd like, you can contact us and we can kind of, tell you how to get in touch with those individuals. But yeah, there's pretty much, I'm not going to say every state has something like this, but most of the larger states do, and a fair number of the medium, smaller sized states also.